Now, I'm delighted to say Nora Stapleton and Louise Conlon are here with us this morning to talk to us about a new initiative from the Camogie Association. It's called M.N.A, which is trying to get more female mentors of female teams. We were interested in this because Anne Downey was on recently talking about taking the gig with Ballyragget, and I hadn't realised that in 2006, when she got the Kilkenny senior Camogie gig, she was only the second ever female manager of an inter-county team. I thought that was amazing that it took that long. I don't know what the stats are like now. It's probably not that much better. So this is a hugely important initiative to get more women involved in coaching at all levels.
Yeah, no, and first and foremost, thank you very much for having us here today. That is kind of what we're trying to redress at this moment with our new initiative. It's basically about sustaining female coaches at grassroots level and providing a pathway for them to develop up to that elite level if they wish to do so. We're very conscious coaches have very different pathways they want to follow, but the opportunities are there for females within the Camogie Association to kind of step up to the role models such as Anne Downey, Patricia O'Grady down in Clare, and to have those leaders and role models for those female coaches.
It's not really about elite level though.
No, it's like any initiative or any project, it starts at grassroots and the foundations. And we within the association, when we developed this initiative, felt that to create a model which grassroots or clubs could recruit, retain, and most importantly develop female coaches and support them along their journey was the key to starting that process, where we would hope over time those female coaches would move forward into the elite levels.
It's it obviously it works with the Camogie Association, but like GA clubs in practice don't have separate camogie and hurling and women's football. They just like everybody goes, and they all the mini leagues are all at the same time. So this kind of is about getting the idea of women to be coaching to become more prevalent.
Yeah,
what are the barriers to that?
I suppose initially, look at sports has been predominantly a male dominated area. Second of all, it's the personal I suppose restrictions, family life, work life versus coaching. Anyone that's involved in any sport or any coder realize coaching a team is quite time consuming. So it's just to break down those barriers. We're very key within the association at the moment. At foundation level kind of coaching, we're coming on balance in relation to male versus female, the numbers that have gone through our coaching courses over the last few years. But the issue we're really trying to address with this programme is recruiting them, but sustaining them through that development pathway. But we're very conscious, female coaches may for personal reasons have to take a year out, but it's to offer that model to a club where they can support that coach, that while they mightn't be coaching a team, they're still being engaged out about workshops, events that are going on to help them keep upskilling and developing their own skills. So then when they have that opportunity to come back into the coaching element of a team, they're there, they're engaged, they're still upskilling, and they're still within the club system. Okay,
so for our listeners on OTB Sports Radio, Louise is with the Camogie Association. You're the technical development manager. Nora, you're the Women in Sport lead for Sport Ireland. So this obviously isn't just a Camogie initiative. You're kind of interested to see how this works, and I presume with the potential to roll it out?
Yeah, or I guess roll it out, maybe it's the wrong word, but so what we do is we would provide a lot of funding to the likes of Camogie Association and a lot of other NGBs who would have applied in. Now, when those NGBs were applying for funding through our Women in Sport grant, there were 4 different pillars that they had to try and tailor their programme for. So coaching and officiating is one of the key areas that we're looking to try and improve across Ireland, across all our sports. So when we talk about coaching, Louise mentioned some of the stats from Camogie, but across the board at grassroots you're roughly looking at kind of 35 to 65% male-female split, and then as you go up the levels that becomes lower with a lot of the females then for whatever reasons there aren't too many of them at the elite level or the elite side of the game. So for us, when we were looking at the Camogie Association's programme, this was very new. It was very welcome to see how it was kind of a bolt on to one of the initiatives that they already have in place with the Her With Me programme, and then it was looking at that sustainability. So is this something that if we help out now that it'll be able to survive past maybe the funding or whatever happens with that as well in the years to come. But certainly then from my perspective, because I'm now trying to work with all the NGBs and national governing bodies and local sports partnerships. It's how do we take the likes of this programme and be able to tweak it and make it available to other sports to use as well. So, for example, I've already nabbed Louise to present at one of our upcoming NGB Women in Sport Days. So she'll just give everybody a flavour of that programme and kind of take them through the steps of how they put it in place, why they put it in place, and then what they hope the outcomes will be.
Yeah. What do you hope the outcomes will be? What does success look like?
The success looks to us, I suppose, it's engaging women long term. Both the player coming to the latter end of their playing career, which, as we talked previously, has a wealth of knowledge. A player that's coming to the latter end of their career has gone through many different coaches and different styles of coaches at very different level, and it's to retain that wealth of knowledge to be passed on to the next generation. It's also to engage women that maybe hadn't the opportunity previously to be involved in camogie. One of our promotional videos for this discusses with a lady from Conlon Camogie Club, Linda Hickey, who never had the opportunity as a child to play camogie, even though she wished to, and has now, through the Hurl With Me programme, has been able to come back into camogie and is now coaching her under 11 team out in Kilcullen.
What's the Hurl With Me programme, just in case anybody...
So the Hurl With Me programme is an initiative that started within the Camogie Association around 7 years ago, and it's a very simple model that basically in the month of June, 1 hour a week for 4 weeks, while your under 10 camogie team is training, the parents of that team are teach the basic skills of camogie. The ultimate idea behind that is that when you're in the back garden with your daughter, that you're teaching her the basic skills of camogie, and it's a way of engaging with your child. We've all the feedback over the years we've got from clubs and people, especially adults that have gone through the programme, is it's a huge tool in which for clubs and parents to start engaging on a very social platform where parents are learning the basic skills. And we found that a lot of clubs have been able to recruit volunteers, whether it's in coaching. Some parents have gone on through our coaching pathway, or even through administration, or even simple ideas through fundraising. So it's basically, when we were creating this model, it was, as Nora said, it was building onto that. It was a workable model, and then adding the additional coach element, because you have 4.5 hours practical coaching done by the time you finish the Hurl With Me programme. So it breaks down one of the barriers for the females. It's time,
So the M.N.A, are you calling it M.N.A or M.N.A?
M.N.A.
Yeah, okay, that's much better. So the M.N.A programme, if anybody wants to get involved, on a practical level, what will this do for people?
So on a practical level, basically, once a club has applied, we have 100 places available in this coming year. Once the club is selected, they, on the application, put forward a mentor which they feel is most suitable for the role, and we've given kind of a job spec of what the M.N.A mentor would look like. It's most importantly the club buy into the ethos of the M.N.A programme. So then the M.N.A mentor would be upskilled over 2 Saturdays with 5 to 6 various different models, from communications to mentoring skills to the practicality of running the Hurl With Me programme within their club. So that M.N.A mentor will then go back into the club and start planning for the Hurl With Me month in June. That's about engaging parents on the sideline on the Saturday mornings when they're down there. And the Hurl With Me programme is open to both fathers, guardians, females, etc., male, females. And it's about engaging those females that are participating in the Hurl With Me prior to June, about discussing would they be interested in going forward and completing the M.N.A programme, explaining to them what it involves, maybe addressing some of their concerns, or maybe trying to just maybe give them that bit more confidence. And it's then, I suppose, their role really kicks back into it is once the females have completed the online part of the coach education and their final practical workshop, which is more a social workshop, so they get to meet other female coaches at their same level, so they can start a network and support network. The real role of the mentor kicks in then when they go back to the club. It's about helping them enter into the club coaching system, i.e. maybe getting them understudying management teams that are already in place, maybe getting them taking some of the sessions and slowly building their confidence and supporting them, and maybe advising them on other coaching workshops, courses that are up and coming. So they're there as a constant support if and when they may waver or get maybe a bit nervous about stepping over the line onto the pitch.
I think what's good about this as well is we talk about that club support, so that the mentor isn't on their own and that the club is bought in and they're surrounded by that support. So if the mentor needs help with certain areas of coaching, whatever like that it's the club who are there to offer support, rather than having them isolated and always feeding back into the Camogie Association. It's that then they can just continue their development in the club setting, which is important as well, and more volunteers, etc., etc.
Are you noticing things when you look at the other NGBs, Nora, about how other sports are set up for this? Obviously, Camogie as well said it seems to go on this path now. Like, you'd wonder the difference between, say, individual sports and team sports. Even getting involved as a coach kind of seems, I don't know, maybe less intimidating on an individual sport basis. I could be totally wrong there, but it'd be interesting to see the differences.
Yeah, and like we've never dug into the stats to pull out, like, have we got more coaches or more, say, elite level coaches or more coaches in team sports or female sports. But at the minute I'm trying to put together a coaching group to look at that, to look at the whole area of how do we get more females coaching, but of more interest is how do we progress them through the pathway. So while I've been trying to get people to come onto that group, what I've noticed is when I talk to athletics that there are loads of females coaching at a very high level in athletics, both in endurance and sprint. So I don't know if that maybe is an indication of it's either easier or maybe there's just more interest there for the individual type sports. I'm not too sure, but certainly, like we were talking in Camogie at the minute, there aren't any female coaches, I think, at county level as a head coach, but there are as assistant coaches. So we don't know if that's because they choose to stay there or if they're just waiting to try and break through or they're trying to upskill. We're not too sure. So it's definitely an area we need to find out more information on, which is why we want to set up this group.
But it makes sense that the men have all the opportunities to coach the minor team, the under 21 team, the whole way through. Yeah. You get Sigerson, you get Fitzgibbon access, whereas the women just don't have that opportunity. So the pathway is the single most important thing, because if you can establish that, then you get one or two through, and then they just drag everybody up along with them.
Yeah, and I think we are certainly within the Camogie seeing that shift now, as you said, through the schools and the third levels. You know, our post-primary competitions is coming to its fruition now in the next few weeks, and there is a lot more female coaches involved in teams. Our Ashburn weekend is on Valentine's weekend. You know, there's a lot more females involved coaching at that level. So I think we're getting there, and I think it's just providing those role models for other female coaches starting off in their journey to aspire to, you know, like Angela Downey, Patricia O'Grady, Clare have been the pinnacles, you know, Mags Darcy as well. They're visible. They're someone they can aspire to, that it can be done, you know. And look at coaching at elite level, whether you're male or female, is a hard work and a time consuming, but I think you need the role models, and that's hopefully what this pathway will create, and slowly that roadway becomes a lot easier to travel along.
I think you're right though about the pathway, and I do think Louise is right in that. So we now have county teams at under 14, under 16, under 18 girls, and certainly I've noticed, say, a lot of the people who I would have played Gaelic football with or played Gaelic football against, they're now starting to take teams at those younger, maybe development or underage county panels. So perhaps that's maybe the stage we're at, and they're the ones that will come through and then, you know, give us 5-10 years and we'll see a massive change in this. But I do think that there's a need and there's a cry out there for maybe additional support or a different type of support for those coaches to encourage them to come through that pathway. But then when you get to other sports, we're probably lacking. So if, like, for example, in rugby, you have the provincial setup, but that's only now starting to maybe develop into more of a competition where people would look at and say, well, you know what, there's a proper competition there at under 18. I want to step in there to coach under 18s to then have a look at the senior in a year or two later. But that's only starting now, really.
So that pathway doesn't exist there?
Not yet. Well, I think it's starting to exist.
Yeah.
Because now there's there's genuine competitions there, and there's a 5-game series and things like that. So I think in some sports, we're starting to see that at a lower level where you have your minor under 18, under 21 competition. But I think in ladies football and ladies camogie, I think we're ahead there, and I think we'll start to see more females coming through at a higher level in coaching, albeit we need to provide more support, I feel.
That makes perfect sense. So the application process is open at the moment?
It is, yeah. Closing date is 14th of February, so a date certainly everyone should remember.
Okay, and if anybody wants to apply, what's the best place to do it?
If you go onto any of our social media, Twitter, Facebook, or our website, the link is there. It's a very simple application form, and I'd say to any club, you know, the booklet it's attached there, have a read of it, make sure that you as a club are buying into the ethos behind the programme, and get your application in.
Yeah, no, now's the time to do it. And Nora, last question for you. I mean, I think was it last April you started this gig? Is this the kind of situation where you lift a rock and you go, ooh, okay, there's a lot to do here?
Yeah, it's a big rock as well. Yeah, there's loads to do, but look, it's great. Like, I love anything to do with women in sport, and that's why I took the job. I knew it would certainly be a challenge coming into it. We obviously have our different areas. Coaching and officiating is one, and you know, when we didn't even try to talk about refereeing or officiating. Like, it's even, we're talking about coaching here, but when you go into that space, there's even less.
Yeah.
Our leadership and governance. So, at the minute we're nearly at 30% across the NGBs of female composition on boards. Obviously, it's very different in each NGBs, but that has improved since we looked at the stats this time last year. And then when we look at active participation, we want to close that participation gradient between males and females. It's gone over the last 10 years. It's gone from about 15.7 to nearly 3.7 at the minute. So it really has narrowed. But we just want to get it to, you know, where it's 50-50, and you're increasing those who are active across Ireland as well, and then you have visibility. So how do we make sure, you know, what you guys are doing about showcasing women's sport? How do we try and work with, for me anyway, it's about working with media outlets to see what are the current barriers that you might be experiencing in trying to get more female sport on news channels, on sports channels, and how do we change that? How do we support one another as we move forward?